Welcome to a Brighter Day podcast with your host, Beverly Knox Davis, recorded at the Brighter Day Hub in Historic Hoskins. This podcast shares stories of empowerment, resilience, and growth. At a Brighter Day Outreach, our vision is to create a thriving community where every youth, senior, and family in the Thomasboro, Hoskins, and Charlotte areas has secure placement and the potential to grow. Join us as we shine a light on the people and initiatives making brighter days a reality.
Hello everyone, this is Beverly Knox Davis and welcome to this week's A Brighter Day podcast. We are so truly excited and honored to have our special guest today, Jamaal Kinard. Thank you so much for joining us. We are very, very excited. You are considered the E.F. Hutton.
Yeah,
everybody listens.
Big responsibility, but a very high honor. I appreciate it.
Well, I have considered you a mentor for years and have followed your lead on so much, so I'm very honored to have you here today.
For sure.
So tell us about Jamaal Kinard. Share your family, your background. You know, we see all of the political stuff and everything else, community. But tell us a little bit about you and your family, background, aspirations, goals, that kind of stuff. Let's get to know you.
All right. Well, let's start from the beginning. My full name is Larry Jamaal Kinard. I'm from Newberry, South Carolina. I consider myself to be a small town guy with a big city hustle. So being here in Charlotte, North Carolina is like the big city for me, coming from small town of Newberry, South Carolina. My background, I thought I was going to be the next Ken Griffey Jr. and Derek Jeter. Baseball was my passion growing up. My uncle played pro ball. My dad played in college, and their names held a lot of weight in the athletic space, both baseball and football in my hometown. So that's what I grew up wanting to become. But I had a praying grandmother and a mother that also had some different plans for me as well. So along with playing ball, my mom was big on education. You're going to get your education. You're going to be top 10 in your class. You're going to be president. She was pushing that on me. So I always used to ask the question. My mom's a cosmetologist, right? Okay. And so she should have had licensed therapists up on our walls too, because so many things would come into the beauty shop. So many people come to the beauty shop and tell their stories. And when stuff would get like a little bit too grown for me to hear, my mom would put cotton in my ears, because I was in there either sweeping up the hair, taking the garbage out, doing my homework. Mm-hmm. I'm like, Mama, I can still hear, but the message was loud and clear. You ought to be seen and not heard. You ought to stay out of grown folks' business.
And that's where we were raised.
There
right?
you go.
That's old school right there.
There you go. But just alluding to a lot of her customers were older women who had became widows, and she took on that responsibility of making sure they had food. So my mom would cook up meals. She's known for her dressing. Some people up here call it stuffing, but we call it dressing back home. And her banana pudding. Okay. And she would dress me up, and we would go around and deliver these dishes to these older women. Wow. I'm like, Mama, why are you making me do this? Why are you making me do this, Mama?
There's a purpose.
But doing that, I learned how to have conversations with older women. I learned how to have conversations not just about what I was interested in, but getting into their world. And one day when I was around in Lakeview knocking on doors, trying to get people organized and rallying around this 3E plan that we created, I got very emotional one day, because I was like, this is what my mama was preparing me for. Mm-hmm. So growing up in that small town, having ball, but also having these other values that we stood upon, and making sure everyone knew that, regardless of status in our community, you are valued, you are seen, and you are heard. So that's a lot about me and how I got here to do this work in Lakeview.
All right. Yeah. Well, shout out to Mom.
Yeah,
we sometimes get that internal thing that we want to instill in our children. And, at the time, you just don't know where it's going to lead. But I see it in my own as well. Yeah. They are both very heavy community service. And my son wants to take over A Brighter Day.
There you go.
So
I'm
very excited about that.
For sure.
Tell us how your journey led to you becoming the executive director for the Lakeview Neighborhood Alliance.
For 3 times. I was a former educator. I taught at J.T. Williams Middle School here in Charlotte while I was training to go play ball. Ended up getting hurt, came back home, was working at CPCC. I got my degree from Gardner-Webb University in computer science. So in doing that work at CPCC, the principal at J.T. Williams got word that I was back in town and told me to come interview. I got the job on the spot, so that began my career in education. So I was there for 2.5 years, and I transferred to becoming a site coordinator for communities and schools. I was there for 8. And while working in the school system, I kept seeing the same thing over and over every year. Kids were excited about the school year at the beginning of the year. By the end of the year, they hated it, right? And we always used to blame. It's the parents' fault. It's the students' fault. It's the teachers' fault. Everybody was pointing the blame at people. But I was like, something else is going on. So we started doing home visits, and I started to understand this thing called concentrated poverty. Poverty is tough no matter what. When you concentrate it in one part, you have people who now are in survival mode instead of working as a community like how me and you grew up, even though we were still poor.
Right.
But we had those values that we stood on, right? But people begin to feel like they're in survival mode even when they should be working together as a community. So that's one. The second thing is that Raj Chetty report came out in Charlotte. It had Charlotte ranked 50 out of 50. So now I done seen it firsthand, and now I'm starting to understand some underlying systemic things. And then for Charlotte to be what? Top 3 in banking.
Oh, yes.
Top 10 in philanthropic giving across the nation. And so trillions of dollars coming to Charlotte every day, and it's not getting to the hands of the people that really need it. I said, okay, that's 2. And then number 3, I went to the Racial Equity Institute. Big shout out to RMJJ and REI. And after that 2-day training around just fish, lake, and groundwater, I was like dumbfounded. I was like struck. I was like, oh my whole life has been a lie. Like I was just stuck to my seat. Because they broke down systemic racism, I'm talking about, laid it out so thoroughly. And Suzanne, one of the trainers, we call her the Oracle because she's an older white woman, electric gray hair, and all she really wears is black. But I promise you, she was on that side of the room. By the time I looked up, she was right here. And she was like, Jamaal, are you not going to go home? And I was like, how do you expect me to go home and do my job after I just heard what I just heard?
Right.
She said, I expect you to go home and do your job better, more consciously, and I expect you to go into your neighborhood and start organizing. I left that day, started knocking on doors, and that led to the formation of the Lakeview Neighborhood Alliance.
Wow.
That's how
what
we got
a
here.
journey that is. You see how in tuned I am because sometimes you find out the answers from the journey.
That's right.
And then it's all about activating what it is that you've learned through going through that particular journey. So now you have this amazing location in the Lakeview community. Tell us about that.
Man, it's the most exciting and most frustrating thing I ever done in my life. But it's beautiful though. Like you say, you can't be so tied to outcomes. You should have a vision that you want to come to pass. But you have to be stubborn in the vision and flexible in the details. So we're learning to do that. So what we have is a 3E strategic plan. Within that 3E plan, we have a short-term responsive and a long-term strategic. So if I were to lay it out for everyone, this is how I usually say it. We are a community impact organization. That's an acronym that stands for individuals making progress and change together.
I love it. Say that one more time.
So community impact organization, and impact is an acronym that stands for individuals making progress and change together. All those individuals that come together to form LNA or residents and stakeholders of the neighborhood, and we've organized ourselves around a 3E strategic plan. Those 3 E's are engage, educate, and empower. And everything we do, we are working to engage the residents of Lakeview, educate them on opportunities, and connect them to resources while advocating for Lakeview's growth and empowerment. That's what we do day to day. Right? So we do that in 4 main areas: child and family stability, prevention of displacement due to gentrification, economic mobility, and civic awareness. Long term, we have a long-term plan that we call Live Greatly. Right? We spell greatly with an 8 because we have 8 core principles within that Live Greatly ecosystem plan that within that plan, we want to own a building inside of our neighborhood. That's the former Lakeview Elementary School. We want that to be our economic mobility hub. 28208 is one of the most impoverished zip codes in Charlotte.
Yes,
That economic mobility won't happen. So we can't put a band-aid on that problem by saying we helping individual people and businesses improve their finances. We have to create an economy on this side of town. And that's what we're working on doing, creating an economy so that people that's already living here can employ those skills and things that they have into that economy. Secondly, on top of that, working with the West Side Community Land Trust so that we can begin to bank land and have homes that permanently affordable. And then with Faith Memorial Baptist Church, getting that they building an outreach center so we can have satellite offices for our place-based partners to have offices on site while also giving the residents they need as we continue to grow and get to that self-actualization, realizing all that one can be based on talent, skills, and abilities, and how those things contribute to the betterment of the community.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot to take in. And
Yeah.
I love how consistent you are because it doesn't matter, if someone were to walk in here right now and you had to start over, they're going to get that exact same thing, So I'm aspiring to get there to make sure that I'm saying the exact same thing. It's going to be similar, but it's not like that.
Right.
So
we
I'm
all
getting
got
it.
nuance. That's right, for sure.
That's why he's my mentor, y'all.
For sure. Definitely.
Oh my goodness. So I've been there I've seen the Lakeview school and some of the progress. Tell us, where you are in the process and what timeline you're looking at. And it's absolutely amazing what you all have done so far. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So we started this organization. We got our 501c3 in 2016. But it was slow getting out the blocks because it was just community members who wanted to see some type of change happen. When I joined the board in 2018, Ms. Nola Murphy was still serving as the president. And one day she told me to come take her out to eat. She said, come pick me up, get something to eat. I said, man, where you want to go? She said, I want to go to Burger King up here, right off of Brookshire. And I was like, you want to go nowhere? She said, don't sass me. Come pick me up. I said, I want to go to Burger King. Yes, ma'am. I opened the door. We walked in. We ordered. We sat in the dining area, and we talked for about 3 hours. And she said, baby, I'm tired. You got the right heart. I'm handing you the keys to it. I trust that you're going to do the right thing. And from that day, a week later, Ms. Nola died. She died in a car accident. And so I felt that anointing from the ancestor to go about doing this work. So from there, it was all around building capacity, getting that strategic plan fleshed out with residents, building capacity. I'm glad to say over the last 5 years, we've done that. Now we're in the sustainability portion of it. Now that we built the capacity, we then got the people organized around it. We now have an 8-year plan to build sustainability. So now we can become self-reliant, self-determined, self-sufficient, and self-governed. So that's the next phase in it. We got to have people buy into it even more. It's one thing to get funders to buy into it, but when you got the people.
Oh, yes.
When the people say, yes, we want to have grants and sponsorships, but the people say, no, we're going to take responsibility for LNA being sustained, whether it's $5, $10, $20, $100, but we all working together to make sure we got what we need. That's what we're trying to accomplish over the next 8 years while also getting ownership of the building and having that be our economic foundation. So getting the people to buy in more and gaining ownership are our next two things we focus on towards sustainability.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And of course, my journey.
For sure.
We've been talking for quite a while.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I know with the Historic Hoskins Coalition group, started 4 years ago.
Yes.
The struggle was real. I had people accusing me of coming in to put in mandates on paying dues and fees and stuff like we're a real homeowners association. I was like, no. So it took gaining the trust.
That's right.
Even though I grew up here in this area, and people knew me, my mom, who's been here for 50 plus years.
That's right.
So I understand that portion. I took a lot of advice from you. Some things I had to pull back on. Like I love the zone captain idea, giving people responsibility in the community. But some were like, I don't know if I want to be responsible for a section.
Gotcha.
Everybody goes in their house, they
That's-
close the door, and they may not talk to even the person next door. So, but we've come a long way.
Yes,
and I just want to say thank you to you for every bit of advice, all the hours that you've spent with me.
For sure.
Teaching and coaching.
It's my responsibility.
Oh, it's been a true pleasure. And, a lot of times people hold on to information and they don't share.
That's right.
But I never got that from you, and I'm just extremely grateful. We also have a tie. Miss Nola Murphy. I have known her since I was a little girl.
Really? Okay.
She was a member and drove the van. At East Stonewall AME Zion Church. Yeah. And my mom, everybody was so crushed, when she was the only one from that accident. So you have to take from that. That's just what you said, that the torch was truly passed, for you. That's right. So, given everything that's going on, we're next door neighbors. Everybody, Lakeview is just right next door to Hoskins.
Some people consider it to be Hoskins.
Exactly. We are here together. So it makes no sense not to work together. That's right. And to help each other grow. And that's exactly what Jamaal has done. Mm-hmm. So there are 5 different neighborhoods that make up Hoskins. And, it's been very, very challenging. One in particular, Brookfield, they want to operate solely on their own, based on their leadership. I don't think that's wise. I think we all need to be together, and I'm prayerful that eventually that will happen. For sure. But still, some of those from the neighborhoods, they're like, no, we in. So they still come here for all the resources, the food pantry and everything. That's right. So I would like to ask you, in bringing everybody together, what were some of the biggest challenges that you had to overcome in hopes of helping this area for Hoskins to understand we're stronger together and working together is the only way? So what advice could you give us?
I think number one thing, we had to build trust. So in Lakeview, we measure trust. Right now we have a 97% trust rate. Right? When we ask residents on an annual basis, when it comes to your family, LNA, religious institutions, government, law enforcement, all these different entities that make up a community, where do you rank us as far as trust? And every year from the last 3 years, we come in number 2, only second to families, which we're glad we're second.
Oh, that is perfect. Okay.
But we had to really get in there and build some stuff. So we look at 3 things to help us understand how to build trust. Okay. Number 1, the lived experience. We can't discount the lived experience of people are having each and every day. We live in a system that promotes gross individualism, right? So how do you combat gross individualism within a context that's telling you to be that, within the industry of nonprofit that's telling you to be that, within the industry of philanthropy that's telling you to be that, right? So you're really fighting against a lot of different forces. So number 1. Number 2, how you do that is bring in data. You have to bring in some cold, hard, just quantitative data. We got to infuse that qualitative in there, but quantitative data. And lastly, is the proper historical context. So if I break down the last 40 years real quickly, in the 60s, we accomplished a lot of great things as Black people, right? And it wasn't just for us, because every other person in this nation benefited from it. Civil Rights Bill, Fair Housing Act, Voting Rights Act, right? At the end of the 60s, all of our leaders were assassinated. Dr. King, Malcolm X, RFK, JFK, Fred Hampton, Assata Shakur, exile, Angela Davis pretty much silenced, even though she won her court case. At the same time, Richard Nixon was accused of Watergate while also calling for a war on drugs, but he really had a war on poverty. So he sent thousands of people to jail, but you didn't spend one day in jail, even though you got found guilty for Watergate. 80s, Reaganomics, the crack boom. I don't think we have yet to do a full kind of quantification of the impact that crack had on our communities. It decimated us, right? It did. And it left a lot of women with their men that could become their husbands dead, in jail, or struggled on drugs. So where did that leave our women? Now in the 90s, getting that welfare benefit. But if you get that, You cannot have a man nowhere associated with your home. If a male size shirt, shaving cream, male size shoe was found, those benefits was taken away. So the lack of trust, not being trustworthy, has been infused throughout our community. So we knew that was something we had to do first. We had to build trust, and how you do that is by sharing truthful information and being an organization that people can rely upon and be dependent on. So what you all are doing with the food pantry, being here on a consistency each and every day, helping people get those connected to the resources to get out of survival mode, that's step one. You got to have that, and you got to have people that understand when people come through that door, they're letting their ego go to even come in and ask for help. And if you're not meeting those people with compassion, with humility, in order to give them that dignity back, you're going to lose their trust. So that was number one, that we had to focus on trust, and how we did those with those three things: live the experience, the data, and the proper historical context.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a mouthful in itself.
Right.
I mean, it has truly been very challenging. One thing that you touched on is, that portion where the male can't be, and that's what many are struggling with right now. Several years ago, we walked this area to give out Father's Day gifts. Yeah. And, I was so excited, all pumped to be able to give the kids something they can give their fathers. Well, I came back in a pool of tears.
That's right.
And I went home and sat in my closet and cried for an hour because the babies were just broken. The father wasn't around, and some of the comments we got, my daddy in jail, I don't even know my daddy, I don't have nothing to do with him. I was like, oh my God, but you could see the pain.
That's right.
And some of the mothers that we spoke with, of course, the young men and the young ladies, they were impacted as well. And then also to talk to some of the men who had not been there.
That's right.
And some of them were like, no, I don't deserve.
I don't even deserve this gift.
So I was like, we got to do something to fix this part right here. So we started the Celebration of Kings, which will be on June 14th.
Awesome.
Just celebrating men, good, bad, or indifferent.
That's right.
We don't care. The moment they come through the gate, they get a crown put on their head.
Awesome.
And then we will call out those that have really played the role, been there, did the struggle.
I love that.
So we've been doing that now for since right before COVID.
Okay.
And
That's
so
good. That's
everybody wanted to bring it back as a block party.
Right,
so,
right.
but what we're also bringing into that is the culture.
That's right.
To make sure people understand from whence we've come.
That's right.
And then it's right around the Juneteenth celebration as well. So we'll bring in some of that. So it'll be some culture things and vendors and things. So when you mentioned bringing it back.
You have to.
That's what we're focused on here, and very happy to be right next door.
That's right.
To our neighbor who is doing great things. So
you have to bring it back, because even that, we started off as Lakeview Neighborhood Alliance, and people quickly let us know, no, this is the view here. And I'm like, what? But the sign says. But then I had to go slow down, learn the history. And when I found out the history of it, I was like, oh, it all makes sense. But the people here, they resonate with the name Lakeview. So if we want to represent them, they wanted their name back. So it's like some of those little things that make people just have our dignity back. And sometimes it's in a name, it's in a block, it's in a portion of the neighborhood, and whatever that is, you got to figure out what it is to make sure that they are able to hold on to it, because it's a big part of their identity.
Absolutely. So we have a major identity project going right now.
There it is.
So my thing is, we started with the neighborhoods within the community.
Right. Okay.
So, and then it's expensive doing an entryway to, put that stamp there that'll be there no matter what. Earthquake could come and it's going to still be there.
That's right.
So we've done Beechwood 1, Beechwood 2, and then Brookfield.
Okay.
So I decided to take a pause because there was an issue with North Hoskins. So we said, okay, we'll get all that paperwork squared away, and then we'll come back and do South Hoskins. But in the meantime, we need something that says that you have now entered Historic Hoskins Community.
That's right. That's it.
Which we've never, ever had.
That's right.
So it's always been, this back and forth. I remember as a kid getting in arguments about, which neighborhood you lived in,
right.
whether this was Beechwood 2 or Beechwood 1. I was like, enough. Let's just do it.
Enough of that. Right. For sure.
And then they compounded it by making it worse by doing the Thomasboro Hoskins. So if you look it up, and that came from a simple meeting. Somebody made a decision and it got changed on the map. So I was like, well, if that was as easy as it happened, we kind of need to undo that.
That's right.
So when the city approached me and asked me to be the leader, the one voice for all of the neighborhoods, I said, well, okay. Well, we got to first work with home.
That's right.
So the whole Thomasboro part, we'll get there and we'll do some things and we'll be inclusive. But we got to sweep around our own front door first and get it all together. So, but what I've found is labeling this area Historic Hoskins Community seems to be a problem. I don't know what that problem is. I've heard some other grumblings about what they want to call this area. Soho and NoHo, which don't sound right.
Don't sound right.
Or South Hoskins and North Hoskins, kind of like that no-dock kind of thing that fits right into, all of that. So I was like, no, we won't play the gentrification game. We're going to stick with history. We're going to do those kinds of things. So I can appreciate the fact that you put the time in to make sure that everybody was comfortable with the naming of the area and to get everyone's buy-in from that aspect. So, yes, the A Brighter Day hub here has a food pantry out back, and we have had a lot of people come through.
Good.
I can recall you all doing something similar. So where is that now? Yeah,
so we're currently, on that site that we have a lease, we have a 10-year lease with Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. You have a smaller old former preschool building. You also have the elementary school building. That's the bigger one. We're focusing our energy on that one now. But last year in 2024, we did a full renovation of the smaller former preschool building. That's our office now. So with that renovation, we also have a partnership with Gambrell Foundation, which has their own farm, Basket Case Farm. So on a weekly basis, every Tuesday, they bring in fresh produce from their farm. We put it inside there. We have call it our community market. And we pair the fresh vegetables. We have Rayo as one of our place-based partners. They do health screenings during that time. We also have other organizations that's partnering with. They give some kind of health facts on, like just healthy living, healthy eating, some things you can do from a preventative standpoint. And then so that starts at 1. At 5 o'clock, Rayo has an organization called Be Sharp. Comes in and does aerobics with our seniors. So we do chair aerobics, senior aerobics, and we get them moving. And we target our seniors because there's so much wisdom there. Right? And our seniors they feel so unappreciated based on how fast the world is moving now with technology. So we want to start there. You can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been.
Amen.
So we have to make sure our seniors are staying around as long as possible to impart that wisdom on us. At the same time, we have youth programming happening in the building. So they're seeing the seniors moving. And then the youth took on a project of making the bags for them to carry their produce back and forth from home. They made the bags for the seniors. So everything we're doing is bridging that gap, and we're using that healthy eating agriculture to bring us together. Again, how we used to do back in the day. My grandmother raised chickens, had a garden. My granddaddy slaughtered hogs, and that's what we came together off of. My grandmama would have this big pot, and she would make chicken hash. When she made that chicken hash, everybody would come from all over the community to come together to break bread. That's right, you smell it. But we use agriculture and food to bring us together. I think we got to get back to that because we left that because it had like an industrial revolution, took people from the home, and now we have a technology revolution. Right. But technology can go, industry can go. One thing that's going to always remain, we need food, we need land, we need water to survive. So we don't protect that and protect the seniors that really know how to do that, to impart that knowledge and skills to our young people, we in trouble. Yes. We in trouble. We recognize that. So that's the core of everything we do. Our health care, healthy living, we got to make sure that's there before we can do anything else.
Oh, that's awesome. I know that's one of the things that we're very focused
For
on
sure.
here, and making sure we get more of the salads and things
There you
like
go.
that for
You
people
have
to
to.
eat.
That's right.
Not so much processed
Yeah, man,
stuff.
it's killing us. It's
Yes,
killing us.
it
Yeah,
is.
it's killing us.
And one suggestion is we have some that are getting the foods and then they're going home and making them
Oh,
and
yeah.
posting,
Posting it. That's right.
making
That's
the
right.
food that they. I
That's
was
right.
like, oh my God, this
That's
great
real.
content.
That's good. That's
So,
right.
but it
That's
just
right.
made us feel good that we
sure.
were able to bring in fresh fruits and vegetables, but only through our partners. And shout out to Feeding Charlotte, our Daily Bread Ministries,
Big shout out to our Daily
Fresh List during the spring and summer months. They came all the way through November last year, so they were amazing. And then we had some items from Carolina Farm Trust.
Awesome.
So the goal is to address the food insecurities, but not just to provide food. We want good food,
That's right.
things that are healthy, and to bring in resources like Oak Street Health.
Okay.
They
yeah,
have
yeah,
partnered
yeah.
with us
One
to
of our
come in
partners
and
too.
teach. So we're very excited to have them as a partner as well. So see, I've been taking notes.
That's
I've been
good. Hey, we
listening.
on place. That's what I'm saying. We on the same synergy. It's on the same synergy. So
So as we close, give us some words of wisdom from Jamaal Kinard. You know, just anything that we could take away from where we are today, how we can be better, and coming together, and just knowing that there's a common goal within community. So share with us.
yeah, I'll say this, good people. All we got is us, and we enough. We gotta believe that we are enough. First of all, we gotta accept that. We gotta accept that we are in the condition that we are in. We are in the tough conditions, but I believe with our ingenuity, our spirit, who we are as people, I think we can rise above it. And no matter what they try to put in the textbooks about our ancestors, they rose above it too. Period.
It is.
Right. Number two, we got to have confidence in each other. And I say confidence instead of trust, because sometimes we got to believe without a sense of some type of security that is going to happen. Like right now, nobody's guaranteeing that a brighter day in Historic Hoskins Community is going to be successful.
Right.
But you are a leader with your people you're working with that says we believe enough
That's right.
that we at least got to do something, right?
Absolutely.
And then lastly, know that happiness is a feeling of contribution. A lot of times they try to make it seem like happiness is going off to a beach, sitting on the beach and having Mai Tais all day. No, that's a small form of self-care. Your happiness in what you contribute to other people who share the same values that you do. So I think that's one of the big totality. We are enough, and if we can begin to employ those three things, self-acceptance, confidence in others, and knowing that we have happiness and contributing to each other and to helping to improve the state that we're in, I think that's enough. Lastly, I would say, if you don't have a plan, you are a part of somebody else's. So I can say we can sit up here and have all these conversations about what we want to do and the problems that we're facing, but we got to have a plan. And one thing I value about people who come to me and ask me for my help, like yourself, you have a plan. So if you got a plan, we can work some stuff.
That's right.
But if you ain't got no plan, no concept of what you're doing, we're in trouble. So let's make sure we have a plan, and within that plan, let's give ourselves grace. Let's have some self-acceptance. Let's have confidence in each other. Let's make sure we're truly contributing and looking out for each other in the process.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much
for
for
sure.
your time.
And I got you a gift.
Oh my goodness.
The name of our clothing brand that
I
supports
love it.
Lakeview. It's called Living Statements.
Okay.
We spell statements with an infinity sign because we believe statements live forever. And one of our slogans that we go by is that I am a living statement. And Beverly, with the work that you are doing here with your community, taking this risk, it takes a lot of courage. And I want you to know that you are truly a living statement. This is a small token to recognize your contribution to the West Side.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. And for everyone that tuned in today, thank you so much for your time just in spending with us here at the A Brighter Day podcast. You can catch us at iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and all of the social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Insta. So check us out, and we thank you again for joining us. God bless, and we'll see you.
Thank you for tuning in to a Brighter Day podcast with Beverly Knox Davis. Together, we're working toward a community where everyone has the opportunity to grow and thrive. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and join us next time as we continue to inspire brighter days for all. See you soon.